bangaranga, bangaranga, bangaranga. I'm the bangarang, bangaranga, bangaranga, bangaranga. I'm the bangarang. Blinding lights, welcome to the ride. I'm the bangarang.
We looked up and we just saw this saucer type thing taking off, and it seemed to turn side on and just disappear into thin air.
How many witnesses have you interviewed in the 16 years that you've been researching this who actually saw the craft?
I think at last count, I'm up to somewhere around 180.
180 witnesses. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it is kind of unbelievable. Literally, we're taking the word of a guy we barely know. So Shane Ryan says that 180 people. Now, that's still better than the hearsay in the Bible. So at least we know Shane Ryan is telling us that other people saw something. Technically hearsay. In the Bible, it's a guy we don't know is saying that 100 years ago, another guy we don't know might have heard that some other people saw a thing. Somebody had the nerve to mention to me in the comments, why is it that you believe these eyewitnesses, but not the ones in the Bible? It's like, oh my God. There are no eyewitnesses to any of those events. And these people are so lost that they think they think that if a guy I don't know said another guy 100 years ago heard about some eyewitnesses, they think that is eyewitness testimony. No, what you're about to witness today is eyewitness testimony. It's the living eyewitnesses to the Westall UFO event of 1966. I'm not going to be playing a big part in this video, and in fact, there's so much witness testimony, I'm splitting this part up into 2 videos because I'm going to step back and let those people speak for themselves. And I will ask you, I will implore you to use all of your human intuition to determine if these people are lying. They're clearly not. All right, so it becomes immediately incredibly awkward once you pass the threshold of, oh dear, these people are not remotely lying. What they are purporting to have happened, as they are saying it happened. What does this now mean? So the burden is on you. It's the easy way out to say they're lying. They're not. And this is 60 years ago. These people are grandparents. I'm going to start you with, some of the pluckiest, cutest grandmothers in the world, essentially. These Aussie women. We're going to start with Terry Peck, who is now outspoken about it. She's going and doing interviews. She was part of the documentary. She was there that day. But listen to these people tell their accounts and soak it in and ask yourself why you never heard about this before. Ask yourself what this means. And while you're doing all that, by all means, be as skeptical as you want to be. And all I have to say to that is rest in peace to your skepticism. Rest in peace to Conor McGregor's knee, his ACL, his MCL. And it'll begin to dawn on you that this is not just a UFO story. This is not ancient aliens, a guy with crazy hair. Hey, look, there's a cylindrical looking shape in the hieroglyphic. I think that Egyptians were visited by aliens. No, this is something that happened. And it's time that the world pays attention, starting with you. She is adorable. This is her back then. Cute little kid. She is now talking about it. She is one of those plucky, cute little Australian grandmothers of which I spoke. This is Terry Peck telling you what happened that day in early April, just outside Melbourne in 1966.
What happened that day happened that day.
Terry Peck was also at Westall High School that day, and she joins us now. Thanks for joining us, Terry. What did you see?
Right in front of me, probably about 10 metres away, I saw this object just hovering slightly above the ground. It appeared to be a big silver disc type of object with a bit of a hump in the middle. There were purple lights all around the bottom of it, and I could feel a little bit of heat radiating from it. I could also hear a low buzz, and I just stood there sort of taking it in and looking at it in shock and quite excited. And then it just took off very slowly off the ground to about 15 metres, 20 metres high, and then turned on its side and just shot straight up in the air, faster than the speed of light. It was so fast. And then I could see 2 specks up in the sky, which were the other 2. There were 3 craft altogether over the school. And I saw it join them, and then they just disappeared into thin air. And then we had assemblies where we were all told not to talk about what we'd seen, that it was nothing. We were told it was a weather balloon, all these weird stories, and it was no weather balloon, believe me.
Well, what do you think it was?
Look, I'm pretty convinced that it was something from somewhere else. I mean, we just don't have anything that can move at those speeds. So I'm assuming that it was from another galaxy, planet, whatever. And look, I didn't see any windows in it. I didn't see anybody inside. All I saw were all the purpley blue lights around the bottom of it. There were some seams in the craft. But I don't know. I think in my head it came from somewhere else.
Terry, that is quite a sight. You were just 11 when this happened. In the 60 years since, has your recollection changed at all?
No, look, it hasn't really. I mean, look, they tried to tell us it was some sort of an American experiment as well, but I don't really believe that, because in all these years there's been nothing that's come forth that's could move that fast or disappeared. They just could move all over the place really quickly. So I don't think there's anything around now that could even do that.
Terry, what I find most compelling is that so many people saw these objects, 140 people. All of you had the same story and all of you have stuck to it for 6 decades. You were kids then, but you're adults now. It would have been hard for you to make all of this up and stick to it.
Oh, that's right. I mean, I didn't talk about it for many years. You know, I've got a daughter and she didn't even know about it until probably the last 20 years, because you didn't talk about things like that back then, you know, for fear of being ridiculed or whatever. But I think now, with the Freedom of Information Acts and that being, you know, released in America, and lots of Air Force pilots and reputable people have seen these things, and I think now there's a lot more interest in it now and a lot more believe that there is something else than years ago. And I think it would have created a lot of fear amongst people years ago to know that something like that has happened. And I think that's why they covered it up, to be honest. I mean, things went missing, you know, tapes were taken out of canisters from TV stations, and it was a mass cover-up because I think they were frightened of the reaction of the public at the time.
So you believe there's been a cover-up. The old weather balloon is an instant red flag there. And we just heard from fellow student Joy Clark calling for verification for answers. Are you worried that time is running out?
Who knows? That's right. They might be banking on that, everyone going, and it just quietly fades away. I don't know.
Well, we would all like to know what happened. Thank you so much for sharing your experience today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You actually saw one of the objects land?
Yes. Well, I didn't see it land, but I did see it on the ground in front of me. I could feel a heat and hear this buzzing sound, and I could see purple lights all around it. I no sooner got there, and within, I'd say, a minute, it just raised up off the ground really slowly, just kept on rising to probably about 3 or 4 metres, maybe a bit higher, and then it turned on its side and just almost just disappeared, just went straight up like that. And I looked up in the sky and I could see the other two. So it appeared to just disappear.
Roughly how many students were on the Oval at the time of the
probably
sighting?
about 30 students. And then, of course, they all came out because the bell went, so they all came running out of the classrooms. And then there might have been 200 of us out there.
200?
I'm not sure. There were a lot of students. The whole school basically was out there.
Wow. And there were a few teachers as well.
Yeah, teachers as well. Yeah, they were trying to keep everybody, you know, calm, I think. But, you know, there were teachers that saw it. It wasn't until the school bell went that all the other students ran out. It might have been 5 minutes or something. And then they were all, you know, looking up and, you know, we were all trying to work out what we were looking at.
Right.
But we were all pretty sure that it was some sort of, you know, spacecraft because of the way they were moving. But, you know, it was so amazing at the time. You don't know what it is, really. You're just thinking, you know, lots of things go through your head.
Right.
You know, like, what can it possibly be? And then by the time you actually get your thoughts together, the whole episode's over. You know, they've gone and that's it.
At what point do the Cessna planes come into view? Did they look like they
later,
were sort of
much later.
giving chase to the UFOs?
No, they didn't. They came much later.
They came much later.
And, you know, they were just sort of buzzing around looking, I think. I mean, they could never have caught up with them anyway. They were much lower. So no, they obviously saw something or were told to just go over there and see what they could see. But
Right.
no, they were so slow. It was, they had no chance of catching up with them. Being a bit of a daredevil like I was then, I mean, if it happened now, I would run the opposite direction. However, I ran straight over to the corner of the school, jumped the fence, the usual route into the Grange. We used to do our cross-country runs there. And I ran towards where I thought I saw this one go down. And as I approached this clearing, it's all changed now. Of course, there's houses and everything there now, but back then it was just a real forest, and we had this well there and a little old house that was derelict, and we used to meet there after school and everything. Anyway, as I approached this clearing, I could see this great big round sort of oval object just hovering just above the ground. I actually thought it was on the ground, but it was just above the ground. And it was only about probably 10 metres away from me, and I just stood there frozen really. There were two other girls that had gotten there before me, and they were both on the ground back sort of a bit behind me, and one appeared to be like fainted or something, and the other one was just crying and screaming. And I just stood there in amazement and stared at it, which is funny because, I wouldn't do it now, as I said. And it just looked like a flying saucer, like you see in the movies, really. It was big, oval shaped with a little bit of a humped top on it, all bluey purple lights right around the whole perimeter. I could feel a bit of heat coming from it. I could also hear a low humming noise. And then after what seemed like an eternity, but it wasn't, it was probably only, a minute, maybe half a minute, it just started to slowly rise up from the ground. And as it got up to within maybe 10, 15 metres, it turned on its side and just went straight up in the air, and I could see the other two way up in the air, and it joined them, and they just disappeared into thin air, just like that. And it was so fast, the way that it just accelerated straight up into the air, that it was nothing from our time.
It's almost instantaneously.
Instantaneous, and then they disappeared. Just disappeared into thin air. So whatever it was, it certainly wasn't a weather balloon or some experiment that we were all told to shut up and not talk about it. No weather balloon moves like that. I will say there were no windows in the one I saw. I couldn't see anything inside it at all. It was just purpley, bluey coloured lights all around it and a bit of noise and some heat. I didn't see anybody inside it or anything.
Right. And roughly the size of the craft, what would you say?
It was roughly, look, I always describe it the same way, because back then the old station wagons were around a lot. It was probably about 1.5 times the size of a station wagon sedan. So, how big's that?
Right, about 8-10 metres or so?
Yeah, probably, yeah. It's hard to say now, so many years later, the exact measurements of something that you saw back then. But, it was fairly big.
Fairly big,
yeah.
Right. And you got within, you'd say, roughly 10 metres or so?
Yes, I was very close to it, which was amazing, because I just ran and I got to this clearing and it was there right in front of me. I didn't really have time to think. And then it wasn't long before it started to just lift off the ground really slowly, and it did leave a flattened yellow patch there.
What colour was the craft?
It was a silvery colour.
Silvery colour, and just classic flying saucer shape?
Yeah, what you see in movies, really, like the bit of a hump on the top and then flatten round, like a big saucer with these lights going right around the edge of it. I remember seeing some sort of rivets or sort of seams or something in the metal, but that's about it. I don't remember anything else. It was, you're trying to sort of take it in and you're just staring at it, and it's hard to remember all the actual details years later. I just basically remember in my mind looking at it being silver, big, flat, like a typical UFO, what you would expect it to be like, and that's what it looked like.
Right.
So I guess that's where all the stories come from. Whoever has seen them has talked about it, and that's the classic shape that everyone seems to see.
So you're at the Grange, you're standing across from this UFO. How did you feel at that point? Were you frightened? Were you scared at all?
Not really. A little bit. I was anxious a little bit. I was stunned you know, it was just this feeling of, oh my God, what is it, you know? And really, I didn't have too much time to think anything too much. I mean, I wasn't hysterical like one of the other girls was. I just stared at it, and really by the time I collected my thoughts, it had already started to lift off the ground.
Right.
So, no, I wasn't terrified. I was a bit of a daredevil back then, and I just was looking at thinking, what am I looking at, you know, trying to take it in. And yeah, I suppose I would have got a bit nervous if it had moved or, you know, stayed there any longer than it did. But because it actually lifted off fairly quickly, I didn't have a lot of time to really start to panic, you know.
It wasn't threatening at all?
No, nothing. I couldn't see anything inside it or anything. It was basically just this big metal circle with lights around it and, you know, as I said, the humming and the bit of heat coming off it, and that was it. So it started to go and it went, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
I was left thinking, what in the hell have I just seen?
Today, I'm standing at Westall High with Joy Clark, one of the many students who witnessed something incredible here in 1966. What she saw that day has stayed with her ever since.
Could you please take us back to the day of the sighting? Where were you? What do you remember? And
well, I was in the science class in the school over that way, because that sports centre wasn't there at the time, and neither was that building. And was inside in the science class, and a pupil had run in and flung the door open and said, Mr. Greenwood, there's flying saucers in the sky, there's things in the sky. Well, we just burst out laughing, right, as you do. So that was okay. It was coming up to morning recess, which was 10:30. So
The moment that Enya song comes on and you immediately think of Devon. You aren't here by accident. Join the Flying Monkeys.